Welcome to your Daily Dose of Theological German. We're on installment number 11 in this work here, The Evangelist John by Adolf Schlatter, taken from Ziefle's Graded Reader. Because, or you might even say since here, because John speaks about or concerning the sin of the world, he has not divided the community into righteous and sinners. So a lot of things going on here in this sentence, but some in particular that we haven't, I don't think, really seen a lot of in our various episodes in the past that might be worth talking about with some detail is, well, let's just look here. After you get to this first comma, you immediately have this verb, which is haben, and it's here an auxiliary. It's creating a perfect tense with this participle down here, which you can identify from the ge modifier that's inserted in between the separable prefix and the rest of the verb. And so the verb in question is actually einteilen, which means to separate or divide. And anyway, so you have a perfect tense here, but why does your conjugated verb show up as the first element in the second clause? That's very interesting because we typically say that verbs are either in second position in a main clause or else they are at the end of the clause in a subordinate clause. And here you have a clause where the verb is the very first thing to show up. And I actually looked and looked and looked in April Wilson's grammar because it's the one that I've been using and I'm typically referred to. I think many of our viewers will use that as they're learning to read German. I looked and she didn't seem to have anything about this, but I'm here to rescue you from this confusing conundrum. And it goes like this. First, you have to contend with the fact that the very first clause in this sentence has the verb at the end, right? And so you see here, sprechen. How do you pronounce that? My German is so terrible. I do apologize. Anyways, this verb is at the end of the clause, and that tells you that you are dealing with a subordinate clause as the beginning clause of your sentence. That's not the main clause of the sentence. It's a subordinate clause. You also know that because of this conjunction up here, weil, which can only ever be a subordinating conjunction, and so it's going to be because or since or something like that. And so that tells you that because you're starting the sentence with a subordinate clause, then what's in first position is not the subject, and it's not even really technically a modifier. It's this other subordinate clause that's giving a reason for what the main clause is going to state. And since it starts with a subordinate clause in first position, the very next thing in the sentence is your conjugated verb, which therefore is, after all, in second position, exactly where it should be. It's just that to be in second position, it shows up as the first element in what seems like the main clause of the sentence. So I hope that makes sense to you. How it was that happened. And that's very common. You will always see that in a case where a sentence begins with a subordinating conjunction and a clause that is subordinated to the rest of the sentence. Then the verb becomes the very next thing. Maybe it is in April Wilson somewhere. Maybe somebody knows that and can tell me where it was, because I think it would be helpful to people to be able to go read further about it. But anyways, that's what's going on. And so I hope that makes sense to you. The other thing is there's a couple of Greek words in here. I don't know if you noticed that. I just translated them as I was going, righteous and sinners. I think if you're learning theological German and watching these videos, you probably have some facility with Greek, but nevertheless, that's kind of what those things were there. So other than that, I think it's actually a pretty straightforward sentence. Nothing too complicated, no weird words. So I hope you found that helpful. As always, thank you for watching, and share, subscribe, like, whatever you're going to do. I would love more comments. I mean, I don't know what you're going to comment about, but I don't know. It would just be cool to hear from people that are actually watching these videos, especially if you're making it all the way to the end, which I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. See you next time.